Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Basics Podcast, the least pretentious fitness podcast on the planet. I'm Matt Stone. As always, I have with me Dylan Waldhuter. Dylan, it's awesome to see you, man. What's going on this week?
What's going on? A lot of good, a lot of cold. I'm freezing my ass off. My hands are like numb. It's finally winter here in Wisconsin, and it's not my favorite. I was really, Courtney and I were trying to plan a trip to Florida or somewhere
Yeah,
warm, somewhere as far south as possible, still in the U.S., contiguous U.S. And
Key
it's
West.
not it's not gonna work out. So we're gonna come north and see
Oh,
you
smart.
instead.
Yeah, come see us. Yeah, great idea. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll spoil it for you a little bit, buddy. We're freezing our asses off up here too this morning. My this is one of my early mornings in the gym, like in there well before the sun rises, and I was like doing the mental math for when we leave for Mexico. Um,
You're going to Mexico?
February 2nd, the 13th, baby.
Wow.
It's gonna be awesome. Yeah.
It's the right
Uh,
idea, dude. It's such a depressing time of year. Like the cold's one thing, but the dark and the clouds, it's just I
it's
think we
hard.
we were both just talking before we came on here that we're fighting colds. It's like inevitable.
Hmm.
It's just yeah, it's tough. Good
Yeah,
for
and
you.
like it's tough to do like all the little things right. Like it's hard because that morning sunlight, even just like sunlight, you have an opportunity to get it, but it's 5 degrees outside. So like even just going outside and getting sunshine on your body is challenging when the sun's out there. So
Well, and
it's tough.
the sun's so far away. It's not
Hmm.
like yeah, you're not really getting any vitamin D from it even when it's out.
Yeah, I mean it's we are in the pits
The
of winter
pits.
around here. So if you're listening to this in warmer weather, we envy you. Enjoy it. And one of these days we'll have to take the podcast on location to a sunny, somewhere sunny and warm. Let's get started with the hot topic today. Oh, by the way, episode 50. So
50.
congratulations, we're doing it, man. This week we're going to be talking all about it's all about fat. What does it mean? What does it do, and how does it affect our lives? And the hot topic is no different. Dylan, I'll kick it over to you. Why don't you intro this week's hot topic?
Yeah, so this is a hot topic looking at a study. Um, and the title of the hot topic this week is Healthy Obesity is a Misnomer, Recent Study Argues. So we're going to talk about what this study says and some of the context around this term, healthy obesity. I think at a high level, there was like this movement around healthy at every size, became
Well,
very popular.
well, yeah, it's like part of the body positivity movement.
Right. And I think the underlying message in it isn't so bad. Like none of what we're talking about today is intended to be judgment or indictment, and health is much bigger than like our blood markers and our risk for disease, right? Like there's mental health components to it. There's how we feel about ourselves. All those things are incredibly important, and so overweightness shouldn't be a judgment on anybody. People are overweight for a number of different reasons, sometimes out of their control, a lot of times in their control. Some people just are bigger people, like they have bigger bone structures. And we're going to get into some of how that impacts overweightness. But this study's looking at, well, I should back up a second. There's some scientific evidence to support that as well, that certain obese individuals don't have any health problems. And that's what led to this term, like metabolically healthy obesity.
Hmm.
So now we're starting to wonder, like, is obesity a health concern? Like, a lot of people talk about it now as like the second leading risk for all cause mortality behind smoking. or can you be overweight and just live a healthy lifestyle? And so that's what this study was sort of looking at. And it looked at 14,000 apparently healthy individuals that were not underweight and found that there were indeed obese individuals that seemed to be in great health. But what it found was that this was very rare. So only 7.5% of the individuals in the study that were obese had no components of any sort of metabolic syndrome or disease. Further, as BMI increased, there was also a linear increase in the components of metabolic syndrome. So, as obesity increased, so too did the different metabolic diseases and syndromes. And higher body fat percentages were associated with worse health. So there's something really important in there too that I think we're going to dive into further, which is the difference between BMI and body fat percentage. But even in non-obese individuals, the higher their BMI or the more overweight they were per the BMI metric, the higher their blood pressure, blood sugar, triglycerides, cholesterol, and the lower their HDL or good cholesterol. So researchers were drawing some conclusion out of this to say that metabolically healthy obesity is a misnomer. It shouldn't really be used. And that you can there may be a state of relative health when you're obese, but it's not an absolute indicator of health, or it's not absolute health.
Yeah, and now again, this is looking at health as far as like these metrics are concerned. And as you know, you mentioned at the top of the show, there are a ton of different factors that make up health. There's mental health, there are, there's social health, there's stress levels, there's all these different things. And so, this is looking at a relatively like it's looking at a small piece of the pie, but like the piece that it's looking at, like the markers that it's looking at are super important as far as longevity is concerned, and not just like living a long time, but like living a healthy, like capable, active lifestyle. So, again, this is one of those like difficult conversations because there is like so much nuance to all of this and so many different like sides to the coin and so much individuality that goes with it all, but on the whole what this study is indicating, what you just summed up there essentially, is that like the health factors seem to indicate that like the more obese a person is, the less healthy they are.
Yeah, maybe we'll qualify it by saying like physically healthy, right? Like we're
Physically
talking
healthy,
about,
physically healthy,
yeah,
right?
your physical health, the risk of metabolic diseases, things like diabetes, high cholesterol, um, etc., which
Right.
further then lead to these different leading causes of death, things like
Mm-hmm.
cancer and heart disease, etc.
Yeah. So I mean,
So
it's one of those things that like it's not meant to freak anybody out. It's just one of those things that you just need to understand that we live in this really bizarre time where there's just like we're in this time of ultra inclusion, and that is not a bad thing. We want to have our society be more accepting of all different types of people, and so one of those things is it was like the whole like coming out of the like fat shaming conversation, and you and I can both agree that like fat shaming is terrible, and
mhm.
we should not ever shame anybody for I mean really anything, like especially anything regarding like the way that they look. um and and so like the conversation that we're having here is simply just meant to inform people and educate people, because unfortunately with these all inclusive movements, the data and the facts sometimes can get pushed aside or overlooked. And what we're just saying here is that the research in this case is pretty clear. The more obese a person is, the higher risk, and even non-obese individuals in this study, it was still, the higher the BMI is, the higher their blood pressure, blood sugar, triglycerides. And so it was one of those things. It wasn't even looking at just. It's one of those things. It's not even just obesity. Just being generally overweight can have these impacts as well.
Yeah, it's well said. The inclusivity piece is important and good, but we should be able to objectively look at things within the context of facts
Yeah, we're not
to
saying fat
assess.
fat is bad. That's
Right.
not what this conversation is about. It's just making sure that people understand, like, they have autonomy over their own lives. They have
Yeah.
the free will to choose. And if you are genuinely happy with the life that you're leading and the body weight that you're at, and don't care about these factors, the fact of the matter is, if you're living a happy, healthy life, you are probably going to be okay as you start to get older,
Right.
because you have so many other good guardrails. Like, this is more for the people who are struggling, and just like, and confused, because that's the other thing, is like, we're just in this, like, uber confused era,
Hmm.
and like, we're just trying to draw a little bit of clarity to the subject.
Well said. Yeah. So we're gonna dive into that some more in the main course.
Yeah. Okay. And it's going to get a little heavy. It's going to, like, this is going to be a good episode
No
for us.
pun intended.
Oh shit! Literally. Okay. Goddamn. All right.
Did you see this is off topic, but did you see Biden? Um, he was talking to Kamala. They were addressing the wildfire issue in LA. And God, I don't remember exactly what he said, but Kamala is from California, and so he said something to the effect of, I know this is a burning issue for you
Oh God.
personally, so I'm gonna kick it over to you. And
No.
like, I don't think he even realized what he said. And the
Biden.
look,
Who would
the
have
look
thought?
on her face was like, I am fucking done with this shit. Like, it was great.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. She's got to be thrilled to be out from under that. Oh my God. No. No. I did miss that. But I watched a lot of NFL football this Sunday, so I saw all of the different advertisements. Also, totally different, like, weird little tangent here. But did you have, was there any irony for you in the fact that the football game played on Monday night was moved to State Farm Stadium?
Yeah, because they just pulled all the insurance from the.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I don't know. There's some irony in it. We're getting way off topic here, but I have some feelings about like personal property insurance. Like these are most not entirely, but we have like people that are choosing to live in a place where
Oh,
this
oh,
risk exists. It's
yeah.
the responsibility of that insurance company to its shareholders
Well, and to
to.
all the other customers that live everywhere else.
Right. And so essentially what's happened now is California's having to cover the liability and
Right.
therefore the expense is falling on the taxpayer, which
Yeah, no, no,
is
no.
just
I didn't mean. This
madness.
was certainly not meant. It was not even necessarily a dig at State Farm in that regard. It was just
It
humorous
is. It
that
is. Yeah,
that
right.
they that they're getting all of this negative pub right now, and then all of a sudden
They play the football
the
game there.
game they play football in their stadium.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is funny.
obviously, yeah. We're not here to talk about politics, nor the California wildfire crisis. We are here to talk about something more important than that in the Worth It segment. Dylan, this is something that has been on my radar for, since the moment I saw it. But as you know, I live in an area where we're in the country. There's not really there's no fast food. The closest fast food to me is 40 minutes from here.
It's a
And
Culver's
so
at least.
what's that?
It's a Culver's at least.
Well, Culver's, yeah, exactly, right. And so we're talking about Taco Bell's newest menu item, the chicken nugget. And honestly, Dylan, like this thing is insane. It looks like Taco Bell might be getting into the business of fueling powerlifters.
Yeah, and bodybuilders. So I live in the Milwaukee area, so I've tried these. Um, the reason they've gained this attention from the wellness community or the especially like the bodybuilder powerlifter community is, and I still haven't figured out how, but a 10-piece chicken nugget has 72 grams of protein in it.
Yeah, in what, like 800 calories or something? Like,
680 calories.
oh my God. Like that's a dream macro split. Like
Yes,
that is a dream.
it's insane. So these are I've had them and they're delicious. Um,
Yeah,
they're not like your McDonald's chicken nugget, which who knows what's in there. These are like they're more like a chicken select, like it's real chicken breast. Um, and they're not big. They're relatively small, which is why I'm so confused how we're packing 72 grams of protein into these things. But they are breaded with tortilla chips, and
oh,
they've got basically like your honey mustard and your ranch to dip it in, but with like a Taco Bell twist. So it's like a jalapeno honey mustard and a Taco Bell hot sauce ranch.
yeah,
And they are really, really good. So macros are insane. They're really tasty. The thing you might want to be a little bit cautious of is I think they have like 200% of the RDA for sodium. Like
sure. There it is.
they're
Yeah,
chock
there it is.
full of salt. Yeah. But
But
they're good, man.
if
They're
you're eating at Taco Bell, you are probably not concerned about your sodium intake
right.
for that day, anyways. But yeah, that's unreal, and they're really not that. I mean, it's not like it's crazy expensive either. You know,
No,
they're Taco Bell prices.
no, yeah. So if you're going through a drive-through and you're looking for a quick macro-friendly meal, Taco Bell chicken nuggets are so worth it.
Yeah, nice. I love it.
I'll see
That's
if I
so
can
cool.
pick some up on the way up to see you.
Well, I mean, yeah, we have like there is like there's Taco Bell, 45 minutes away.
Yeah,
It's there.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
so
gonna pass by it, so
you're gonna
we'll
pass
yeah,
by it.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, bring some. I love that. And then we see how to replicate.
yes,
Like that. I think that's the key because the big thing. So if they're breaded, they're frying them. So if you have your seed oil concerns and all that stuff, there's ways you can punch them up a little bit. But I'm very intrigued, and I'm also really interested in uh the sauce options as well.
yeah. Seed oils is something we're gonna talk about in the next couple of weeks here. That's another good little tease.
Hmm.
Um, but there's some really good like homemade chicken nugget recipes. Like you can use some ground chicken, do a batter on them, and stick them
Yeah,
in the air fryer, and
yeah.
they're delicious. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. All right. Let's. Oh, so Taco Bell chicken nuggets.
Worth it.
Worth it. All right, let's do it. Transitioning to the main course, as we hinted at the top of the episode here, we are going to talk more about weight and obesity and what the right metric is for health. So, again, we're going to look more into that question. Can you be healthy if you're overweight? Can you be, and even further, like, can you be too lean? What is the relationship between weight and health? So, again, this is just one of those things where this is just meant to be an honest, judgment-free conversation. We are not making an indictment on anybody's health or happiness. We are simply trying to provide facts that and some advice as to what you might be able to do if you are looking to get your weight in order. And then again, and we're going to talk about how it goes either way. We're just going to be talking about healthy weight in general.
Yeah, you bet. And so it's really just the nuance in that. It's the gray area. You're absolutely right. It's just to give you the information. You can do with it what you will. We're just going to kind of navigate some of the conversation around overweightness, BMI, which is a hot topic. I think to start, it's worth saying you can absolutely be healthy if you're overweight. What the data tells us at a large scale is that it's less likely than likely. The more overweight you are, the more likely it is that you're putting your health factors at risk. So it's not meant to scare anybody, but we just want to discuss this and give you what you need so that then you can determine what to prioritize as it relates to your health, to your exercise, and to your diet, which is really the heartbeat of this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a good place to go next is just what does it actually mean to be overweight?
Yeah.
And it's typically conveyed or studied using BMI or body mass index. And the reason for that is because to measure a person's body fat itself is much harder. Like to measure our BMI, we really only need a scale and a ruler because BMI equals your weight divided by your height.
Yeah, if you're doing pounds, so for us
True.
like freedom units over here, BMI is weight in pounds times 703 over height, height in
Center.
inches. No, no, in that regard, it's height in inches squared
Okay. Oh, squared.
where
Okay.
where it's weight in kilograms over height in what is that meters in
Meters.
meters squared. So
Yeah.
um yeah, so it is one of those things um that it's basically just the easiest metric to figure out like roughly where you're at, as far as like your body mass is concerned.
But it's really very imperfect. Like it does its job very well. But like does it really tell us or adequately tell us whether a person is truly overweight or not? And I think in the grand scheme of things, to do studies and to make broader assessments, it does. But what we really care about when we're talking about weight and its relationship with health is body fat.
Mm-hmm.
And this is especially important to understand when we're thinking about weight loss.
Yeah.
So what we really want to do for our health, which is also going to supplement our aesthetic goals quite well, is lose fat, not necessarily lose weight at all costs. And so BMI is used as an indicator of a person's excess body fat, but it's imperfect because it only accounts for weight. It has no way to determine if body fat is responsible for that weight, and that's what we care about. So you could have two
Yeah.
people, you could have two people that are 6 foot, 210 pounds. Their BMI would be 28.5, which would fall into the overweight category. But one could have a body fat percentage of 12% and be really strong, and the other one could have a body fat percentage of 25% and be carrying much more fat.
Right. I
And
mean, yeah, you could have a person, and this person doesn't exist because everybody needs fat on it. But you could have a person without any, literally zero fat on them, and if they were all muscle and jacked, they could register as obese on the BMI scale. So
right.
it has literally nothing to do with body fat. But especially as a podcast and a group of a couple of guys that just like to keep things simple and cheap for a lot of people, like this is just it's a good place to start for the majority of people. Now if you're not going to go up to somebody that's been, weightlifting seriously for multiple decades and tell them that BMI is the smartest, way for them to, to check on their overall mass. Because obviously that person's going to have a lot of muscle. But for the average person, like your BMI is at least like it's good data to have.
Yeah, and I'd gone to the doctor recently in the last few years. Once at like 190 pounds, I'm almost 6 feet tall, and I had registered just into the overweight category of BMI. And I mean, if you know me or looked at me, it would be hard to assess me as a person who's overweight. And I remember going back to the doctor a year later at 185 pounds, and he complimented me for losing weight. So I do think sometimes like this BMI thing, even in the medical world, like we do need to individualize kind of its application on an individual basis. But you're right. In the bigger, broader picture, and to have an ability to kind of generalize and understand how overweightness impacts people's health, it's a very, very important metric.
Yeah, it's just data.
It's data.
And the data is good to have. The important thing is to remove the judgment from that data. So if you're somebody that really struggles with data and somebody that like just wouldn't handle those numbers well, like the number on the scale really triggers you, then calculating your BMI right now is probably not the place to start.
Right.
There's other way bigger rocks that you can move and things that you can do to impact your health overall besides that. One thing I wanted to just like mention real quick, and we can just fly through these, are the ways to test the best ways to test for body fat. Because as you mentioned, like that is, that's like really what we're after here. So,
Yeah,
so the
and before you do that, we should say like if you're a person who's not like quite sure, like maybe you're a little bit stronger, you carry a little bit of weight, you want to really understand like is my weight does it could my weight be impacting my health?
mhm.
I'm happy with how I feel, I'm happy with how I look. Get, getting a body fat reading could be a good way to do that.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
understanding what your body fat percentage is going to give you better information about weight's impact on your health.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good point. Right. And so if you are somebody that is curious about this stuff, looking to take the next step, one of these options is probably a good way to go. The first most accurate way uh currently available is a DEXA scan, which we've talked about on here before. It uses X-rays, and it measures bone density, lean tissue, and fat mass. Now that is different from like an in-body scan, because that's using like a bioelectrical impedance, and that isn't quite nearly as accurate. So DEXA scans are great. They do tend to be more expensive than those in-body scans. And you have to go to a doctor, like a really like high level like fitness facility to if you're going to get one of those done. The next, which this one really not all that common, but it's just worth mentioning because it's kind of hilarious, is hydrostatic weighing, underwater weighing. Have
Yeah.
so essentially, they put a person on a scale in the water, and measure, because the fat is going to be lighter in the water. Muscle, obviously, going to sink. It's going to be more dense. Very precise, but just not a very practical way to test for body fat. And then we've got like our bioelectrical impedance devices, um, and then we also the last two are like skin fold calipers, basically like these just like little devices that you just like you grab onto some excess skin. A lot of personal trainers that specialize in fat loss, might have these skin fold calipers, really quick and easy. But like it's one of those things that the results can be pretty inconsistent. So that's not something that you want to put like a ton of faith in. And then especially like the accuracy for those really do decrease on very lean or very obese individuals. And then you finally have like circumference measurements where you're able to like make calculations based um, on well, not calculations, where basically what you do is you just measure somebody's, like take the somebody's measurements and then you just track it over time and just watch how that changes. So those are the ways that you can really like track and look at body fat.
Yeah, so if you have the resources to do something like that, it might be worth doing to understand, how body fat as a component of weight may or may not be impacting your health as it relates to the things we're about to talk about. It's
Right.
worth noting a healthy BMI is going to be between 18 and a half and 25. Overweight is considered anything between 25 and 30, and then obese is defined as anything 30 or greater.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about body fat, for men, it's roughly around like 15% body fat, and for women, it's more like 25%.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's like actually like such an important thing to remember because a lot of times when we are talking about fat loss, it's women that are being talked to or are really listening to the conversation. Um, and it's really important for women to understand that they need to have a certain like it's super important for them to have certain levels of body fat. I mean, for hormone regulation, as
mhm.
far as just like so many things regarding like just health in general, but specifically women's health. Gosh, it's just so important. And so when it comes to these types of things, it's really important to just like remember that the body fat is something that we pay attention to from like we talk about this like physical health aspect, but if it is having an impact on your mental health, you gotta strike the balance with it and maybe even care about this stuff a little less
Yeah,
because it is one of those things that is important if you are in a position like a position mentally to deal with it. But if you're not, like you have to start there and find that reckoning, find that balance and that self-love in order to be able to listen to the rest of this conversation and find it useful.
yeah, that's incredibly important and really well said. There is one little tangent I want to go on here as it relates to weight versus fat.
Mm-hmm.
And it's related in that this is so incredibly prevalent and popular in the health and wellness world right now. And that's Ozempic or GLP-1s
Oh yeah.
and how they are impacting weight loss. So the studies show, and anecdotally, everybody you talk to that's using them is having success with weight loss. But I was listening to Peter Attia on a podcast the other day, and he was talking about how a lot of the patients in his practice, and so this is I do want to note this is anecdotal from his perspective as a doctor, not necessarily well studied um, on the whole, but what he was seeing pretty frequently was that people were losing weight, but the weight they were losing was not the weight they wanted to be losing.
Yeah.
They were dropping muscle at a dramatic rate, and they weren't actually losing fat quite as quickly, and therefore their body fat percentage as a percentage of their overall weight was increasing, while their total mass was decreasing. Their body fat percentage was increasing. So people were losing weight, but they were getting fatter.
Yeah.
So this is a huge caution with Ozempic, and I think it nicely highlights the important difference between overall weight and body fat. And just a quick note, and something I'm sure we'll discuss further, to say that if you're taking these GLP-1 drugs for weight loss, you really need to be prioritizing protein and you really need to be doing strength training to maintain and even strive to build muscle while you're in that calorie deficit.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the only way that it truly makes sense to be on one of those drugs. It also is important to be working with a doctor in that case that has the ultimate goal of getting you off of it.
Mm.
Because that's one of the major gripes that I have with the medical industry in general is, we just find doctors find drugs for problems and they give them to their patients, and then when a new problem pops up they find another drug, generally. And I am like painting the medical industry in a super negative light here. Not all doctors are that way, certainly not. And that's why it's important, if you are going to have that conversation, to make sure it's with somebody that ultimately wants to have that they have a game plan to get you off of it eventually, because nobody should be on these things forever.
Yeah, really good point. And I think it's worth saying, like at the end of the day, go to the doctor, find a good one. Like if you're worried about how weight is impacting your health, find one that isn't just a drug jockey, a patient jockey. Find one that listens to you, one that you get along with and trust, and let them know I'm a little bit concerned about how my weight might be impacting my health. Can we try to understand if and how it is? What can I be doing to address it? That's an important kind of caveat over all of this to say, as always, we're not medical professionals. We're just trying to give you the information to help navigate how you then go out into the world and assess your own life and its impacts on it. So, yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, for sure.
So why does being overweight or being obese impact our health negatively? I think that's worth discussing quickly as well.
Yeah.
And one of the primary reasons that being overweight is considered unhealthy is because in all of the hundreds of studies that have been done on the relationship between body mass index and health, there's essentially this J-shaped relationship between BMI and all cause mortality. So, what that tells us that's interesting is that underweightness also has some impact on our health. So, if
Definitely.
you're too underweight, the risk is higher. It starts to decrease as you fall into that kind of 18 and a half to 25 zone of BMI. And then it starts to increase pretty significantly as you get into the overweight and obese BMIs. So, we're just talking about your risk of death from any cause and its relationship with being overweight or underweight increases pretty significantly. So the sweet spot, I think lowest the sweet spot for BMI is really in that 20 to 25 range. Again, in broad studies. So there's certainly some nuance to this as it relates to you and your body fat and whether or not your BMI the BMI for you is an accurate predictor of whether your weight is impacting your health. But generally, on the trends, the higher your BMI, the higher your risk for all cause mortality.
Yeah, I would like to just talk about the other end of that spectrum, the lower BMI and the risks that come along with that. I mean, there are like so many health issues that come with being undernourished, which generally, if you're underweight, it tends to be, it's simply like undernourishment. And there
Mm-hmm.
are so many issues with that as well. In fact, some studies even indicate, when we're talking about BMI here, you'd rather have somebody being like slightly overweight than grossly underweight. So,
Mm-hmm.
and this is important when we think about uh, when we think about people that do have those body image issues, because a lot of times, especially in the fitness industry, you see it all the time. You're taking advice from people that look incredible. Every muscle is just, popping, and and they look awesome, but they probably don't feel all that great, and they're really not all that healthy. So, it's just important to remember, if you are somebody that is struggling on that opposite and that lower end of the BMI scale, like there are benefits to putting on a little bit of weight, even if some of that weight is fat. Fat is important for hormone regulation. It is important to help our bodies, fight off and recover from diseases. It is literally cushioning. It helps with temperature regulation. There are legitimate benefits to having some fat on your body. Now, that's not carte blanche to go and eat Doritos for breakfast and not exercise, but just one of those things. Again, just like trying to keep the conversation as all encompassing as possible.
Yeah, there's a pretty good chance that guy or girl you're aspiring to look like on social media that's ripped as shit is just as unhealthy as the slightly chubby guy you see at the pool. Like that guy at 4 or 5% body fat is probably not all that healthy as his or her weight relates to their overall health.
Hmm.
So the world we live in does not do us any favors here
Yeah.
because the model of health, what health looks like to the average person, is probably not very healthy. So it would be great if like we should take shirtless photos, Matt, and we should post them and
You've
just
talked about that.
just
Yeah, I'm in.
just show what like a regular healthy strong body looks like. Like it doesn't the aspirations that we have around aesthetic are influencing the way that we think about health, and I think that's a huge issue.
Yeah, without a doubt. Again, like I really think that's where we where we can have value for our audience, and where I think our audience is so special because it is just regular people that are trying to sort all this out, that have struggled with misinformation and confusion in health and wellness, and are just trying to get some straight answers. And not everybody is inspired to look like a fitness model. Most people just want to look a little bit better naked, and they want to feel better overall, and they want to live a long, healthy, happy life. And that's what we can provide to people with this information. And that so having excess fat on your body does have a lot of these potential issues that you talked about. But in the counter to that is being lean actually has a lot of really great benefits, and pretty much just like the exact opposite of all the things that you said. Protecting against diabetes, helping reduce inflammation in the body, balancing those hormones, and just keeping everything like really nice and regulated, and keeping your body running well, feeling well, looking well. It's the old like sports adage, look good, feel good, play good. It's one of those things that all of those things are going to kind of like just take care of themselves if you are prioritizing the right things.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that all these things we're talking about, diabetes, inflammation in the body, cholesterol, etc., these are all things that ultimately show up as cancer and heart disease
Right.
and these, four horsemen of mortality as it relates to chronic metabolic related diseases. So, yeah, like lean. What does lean mean? We've talked about that a little bit, right? It's that not too lean. It's that sweet spot in the BMI somewhere between 20 and 25. Body fat for a man 15-ish%, woman 25-ish%. The last piece I want to mention on the fat issue, where some of this this nuance can come in as it relates to maybe being a little bit more overweight, but being healthy is in the genetic variation in how people carry fat. So the the fat that we really want to be avoiding is visceral fat. And that's
Hmm.
the fat that ends up around your organs. And this is the fat that will have all these negative impacts on the systems of your body. Um, you know, this is the fat that secretes those inflammatory proteins and hormones and other substances that lead to these metabolic risks. And so that's why it's so important that we're managing our fat. Now, you could be a little bit, you could look a little bit overweight and just carry a little bit more of that fat on the outside of your body.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the reason we want to be losing weight is to protect ourselves from that visceral fat that has all of these negative impacts that lead to these metabolic challenges that ultimately lead to these bigger chronic diseases down the road.
Yeah, and that fat that you can see, the stuff that's, just below the surface of the skin, that's called subcutaneous fat.
Yeah,
And that fat does have its purposes. Like I mentioned, help insulate the body. It helps to regulate temperature. It literally provides cushion for muscle and
the
bone.
pushing.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, exactly. You got it. Um, and it's one of those. It's that fat. It's a bummer because that's the fat that people want to lose. When they look at themselves in the mirror and they think, I want to lose weight, that's the fat that they're talking about because it's the fat that they can see. It is the least or the less harmful fats of the two. Um, it's not like having a bunch of subcutaneous fat is going to be a good thing overall, either. But it's one of those things that we look at it and we say, oh, I want that fat to go away. But really, if you think about your overall health, that's not priority number one. Fortunately for us, we don't have a choice when it comes to burning fat, like
Hmm.
which fat we burn, as we've mentioned on the podcast before, and probably a lot of people already know, or if you don't, here's a fun fact. You can't spot target fat loss. Doing a bunch of core exercises is not going to help you lose belly fat. It might help get your abs to pop through the fat a little bit more. But like I've got some female clients who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, and to a T, every one of them comes in and shakes their arm and is like, I want to lose that,
Hmm.
that like tricep, like underarm fat. And so they think that doing a bunch of bench dips and tricep press downs is what's going to get them there. But it doesn't matter how much you train an area. What it will do is build muscle in that area and might help aesthetically with it. But as far as the fat loss is concerned, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah, and subcutaneous fat and visceral fat are pretty tightly correlated. Like it's a rare case where um, you're carrying a ton of visceral fat and it's not showing up subcutaneously,
Sure.
or you're carrying a bunch of subcutaneous fat and it just so happens that it's not showing up around your organs. So um,
Well,
it's
but I guess like the point though is that as you begin that weight loss journey, just because you're not seeing it, because that subcutaneous fat isn't burning away as quickly as you would like, it does not mean that you're not losing fat.
that
There
that
is,
could be true. Yeah.
yeah, there's fat that you cannot see that's being burnt as well.
So in summary, from my perspective, like if you are overweight or obese, um, maybe even more importantly at the individual level, if you're carrying a significant amount of body fat or your body fat percentage is very high or too high, losing weight is is probably the healthiest thing you can do for your body physically. More important than the quality of your diet, more important than the amount of sugar you eat, more important than the type of exercising you're doing. Getting into a calorie deficit, navigating the recipe for how you lose that weight to get into a healthy body fat range will have massive impacts on your health. It will positively impact almost every single health biomarker, from blood sugar regulation to your heart rate to your cholesterol levels, etc., etc., etc. Study after study shows being at a healthy weight and not carrying too much body fat is incredibly important for health, incredibly important for living longer, and for living longer better.
Yeah, and I think the best thing that you can do if you're somebody that wants to get your body weight under control, is either whether that is starting to build up muscle if you're on that lower side of things, or if you are trying to you know have that body recomposition and burn some fat as well. Linking up with an expert is the best thing that you can do. The next best thing that you can do is find an accountability buddy, somebody else that wants to go on this journey with you. Um, and then, unfortunately, like as sad as it sounds, I would keep a lot of my progress and journey with it off of the internet, because the internet is a terrible place and full of a bunch of mean people. But if you want help and inspiration, just an attaboy, just showing somebody all the work that you've been putting in, uh, send that stuff our way, because we are that stuff fires me up, man. When I see somebody uh, busting their ass in the gym, whether it is a ultra skinny person that is trying to build muscle, or somebody that's overweight that's trying to lose it. I just get like really, really proud and happy when I see it in person, in my gym, or um, when it happens with clients, especially. But even just like watching it happen from afar is super cool too. So please share your success stories with us, share your struggles with us too. Man, we would love to hear it. And if you have somebody that is struggling with this kind of stuff, and it doesn't know where to turn, send them our way. Send them this podcast, send them a link to our Instagrams, or to the website, because we just want to help you guys, and we're just so grateful that we're building this opportunity to do so. So all right, Dylan, let's bring it on home. You got anything else to say about that?
No, sir.
All right. You got a Q&A for us today?
I do.
Oh, let's hear it.
Question today is, can I build a bigger chest doing only push ups?
I mean, go to prison and like tell me and like answer that question yourself. Yeah, no kidding, you can. But like, can I build a house without power tools? Sure. Like, yeah, sure you can, but like, why? Why? If you have a really good reason why you only can do push-ups build build a bigger chest, then be my guest. Or then yeah, of course you can. But you got to do a shitload of push-ups, and you're gonna have to like vary tempo. You're gonna have to do slow eccentrics, holding isometrics at the bottom. You're gonna have to do some different variations with it. Like some decline to hit some different fibers in the chest. But yeah, like of course you can, but like why would you when you've got a bench press like right over there? Just do that.
Yeah, maybe this person is looking at how to do this exclusively from the comfort of their home.
Yeah.
I think my 2 cents would be, you can. It's gonna will definitely take longer. So you'll have to be patient, and the variability of tension and tempo is really the crux of this, because if you're just hammering out um, push-ups in poor range of motion and you're doing 50 of them at a time, that's not a muscle building exercise. You have to
Right.
figure out how to get, manipulate the rep ranges some and really keep the reps where you're, somewhere within the ballpark of three, 1 to 3 of failure, under 20 reps, 25 reps. Like if you're doing any more than that, it's sort of turning into cardio to some degree. So, yeah, you can. It's inefficient. And if that's really what you want to do, you should probably talk to a trainer to help you figure out how to implement some of those variations.
Yeah, exactly. It's possible, but like we figured out better ways to do it. All right, it is time for the greatest podcast segment ever invented. It's I like the sad song of the week. Dylan, on the list here, it says it's your sad song,
No,
but
it's you.
I know it's mine.
It's you.
I know it is,
Okay.
and I've been tossing around a few, but I really want to get back. I wanted to get back to our roots, of the the pop punk, um, genre that we love so much. So I'm gonna go. I got a few different ones here. All right, I got it. We're gonna go with one of the lesser known Blink 182 spinoffs, Boxcar Racer.
Oh,
There is
wow.
by Boxcar Racer. That album came out in 2002, ladies and gentlemen. So a little bit of a throwback there. Uh,
That's definitely. What do we have? Angels and Airwaves plus 44,
Plus 44, Angels and Airwaves are the most popular
and then Boxcar Racer.
Boxcar Racer. Yeah, yeah,
Sweet.
classic. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.